friends. Welcome to another episode of Nobody Asked Us with Des and Kara, presented by Brooks Running. I'm super excited about that. I think we got that on the live show. We have to just dig into that for a hot second because that's great stuff and it needs its own moment. Yeah.
It's so exciting. We're no longer presented by Des and Kara. We have a real presented by, and it's a long-term thing, and we're super pumped about it.
Good stuff. And what a way to kick it off with the pontoon cast. We're just two friends on the internet, sort of friends on the internet who became friends over Zoom. And now we're on boats and shooting off fireworks.
Now we're like besties on boats. I don't know. It's besties on cool.
Boats. Well, as a bestie on a boat, I got to say happy birthday. Happy birthday, Carrie Goucher. Is it your birthday, girl? Because you're looking like a present. You know where that's from. Come on. Kara's had a ton of super coffee today.
I
mean, wow. So unprofessional.
I never had my phone on. My son had to have played with my phone. No, but I have been drinking this and it
reminder
really
to turn
is
mine
super.
Off.
It really is super.
And you're looking jacked because of the protein in there. Can you give us a flex?
Okay, so it is my birthday tomorrow when this comes out. I'm just going to say.
Send some birthday messages.
I'm going to be 46.
Okay.
And I'm just going to say this because it's real. I love being in my 40s. I was so afraid to turn 40, like legitimately the night before having like panic attack.
Too much coffee.
Like, oh my God, I'm halfway through my life. And it has been so fun. So I just want to say to any athletes that are listening, I thought nothing could get better than like being at the top of your game in the sport. Mm-hmm. But like, I love this time of my life so much. Now I'm fearing my 50s because I love my 40s so much, but I've loved it. It's been good.
Such a great message. I was on my run really recently, might have been today even, and I was like, 30s were the best. Like, this is fine. 40s will be fine.
40s are better.
It's great. That's great to hear. And like, I feel like 20s I could do without. Mm-hmm. Learned a lot, did some dumb shit, whatever. But 30s, like, I felt like I was thriving.
Well, it's tough, right? Because that's when you're thriving the most in your athletic career.
Right.
But I have to say, like, I just am so much more comfortable in who I am and who I decide to spend time with and what I decide to put energy into. The things that I decide to put energy into are things that I genuinely want to do. I became friends with you, which was kind of always a goal. I mean, way to go, me.
Goals.
And I just feel so much more at peace of like who I am. And I really have to say, it was like, I'm trying to think if it wasn't like this overnight change when I turned 40, but definitely the last few years, I just am so happy and like, it just keeps getting better. So don't fear getting older. It's actually been amazing.
I feel like your book release.
Yeah, for sure. Like, that had something to do with it.
Big turning point, you know, where you're like, I have dumped this thing.
That's true. That was a lot of it. But also, I couldn't have done that when I was younger. You know, I had to live through that to be able to do it. So that's a fair point that the book release really was like a shedding of so much weight. But I really, really have loved my 40s. So it's been great. So 46, I'm excited about it.
Cheers to 46.
More coffee.
You're looking like a present. I'm glad it's your birthday, girl. That's Lizzo for anyone who didn't catch that. I'm not a poet.
What's going on with you?
That's so funny that the shedding of the material. I was on a podcast recently and I was trying to talk about Boston and I like just emptied that stuff from my brain. I was like, oh, I've totally forgot this big segment of stuff. So I stayed an extra day in Eugene to do a podcast with Cam Haynes, who's
very
actually
cool.
a hunter. So you'll love this when it comes out. I think it's run, shoot, lift. So I was lifting weights with him. And it's like the saddest thing ever. And I was so sore for 2 days.
Hurt that you lifted with him before you lifted with me.
Yeah. So it was good. It got me energized. Like I went and ran the next day and like we did bench and I was like, oh, I can totally feel how this just like pulls you in the right posture. This is probably good for you. Yeah. More athletes should do this. Yeah, it wasn't a big unlock, but I was super sore on the way home. I was like, oh, like this is gonna hurt for 3 days. That was fun.
That's
What
really
else?
cool. When does that come out?
The interview came out already. He's just like he's crazy. He dropped 6 episodes in 6 days. I was like, that's too much work.
Okay,
We'll
but what
never
is
do
his
that.
podcast called? Because I've seen it on your social, but if someone hasn't seen it, where can they go and listen? Because he's a really cool guy and he gets really cool guests and he had you, which is amazing.
I think it's Cam Haynes Collective or Keep Hammering is his whole like thing, and then he'll cut up a video of Lift Run Shoot, which will be a separate thing. So that'll go check out his social. You can be one of the millions of people that follow him.
Yes, he's mega pops.
Super fun. And then I got home. I have to tell you this story. I got home and it was Eugene, so there's really great coffee out there. I picked up Ryan these 2 bags of really nice. I can't even think of the place right now, but I'm super excited. I'm like, I brought him a gift. And I accidentally left him in the car the night before. I got home at like midnight to Traverse and we drove home. So I went out in the morning. I was going out in the morning to get them. I was like, oh, I have a surprise for you. And I was heading out the door. He's like, no, I have a surprise for you. Let me get the coffee. Hold on. And so we're walking out together and he's like, I bought you a new boat. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? You know, like when you see the commercials at Christmas time where the husband puts a bow, you're like, you motherfucker. It was like he does this thing where he like brings stuff up once and he's like, no, I told you about it. I'm like, you said it once, like completely randomly in passing. It was a great bargain. It's a nice boat, but he was like, surprise, I got you a new boat. I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
I love that. Okay, so I saw that you're still not catching any fish. So it looks like he's been very successful on the fishing excursion. By the way, did he like the coffee? Boat?
Coffee, did not care.
Boat, coffee.
I was like, yeah, I got you a coffee. He's like, oh, I got a boat. No, I mean, he thought it was fine. He's drinking the super coffee because it's easier right now. It's hot. So yeah, the present was basically for myself and his present was for himself. And it's a wash. It's fine. But no, I'm doing, I don't like that style of fishing. So we go out on the big lake, like Michigan, and you have to go and it's super calm. And then you set up all these lines and it's like it's mostly fidgeting around, like for bigger fish. Like he wants like the salmon are out right now.
Ooh.
So we've caught one and he caught a steelhead, which is not a salmon. That's fine. And it was a great fish. And then yesterday we went out again and it was a little too choppy to even be out there. And we had this sort of, it's like a shaker fish where you don't even know it's not big enough to like alert you that it's on. So we're like pulling in all the lines because we're done. And then it's like this fish that maybe had been, trolling around with us for the last 2 hours. And like, oh shit. So that was my fish. It was like, yee. And yeah, if you throw it back, I think it survived. I think it did.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
It was in the freshwater the whole time. So when you guys catch a big fish, like a steelhead or a salmon, does Ryan clean it all? And then do you guys make it right away?
Yeah, he cleans it. I don't touch them. I don't bait and I don't usually touch them. I'll do perch.
I'm only laughing because I'll eat all of the fish, but I don't want to throw a line or touch it or anything. I just want to eat it.
Yeah. I don't mind the fishing. I don't like touching the bait. And it depends on the size of it coming off of the hook if I'm going to touch it or not. But yeah, then we brought it home and we had steelhead for dinner. And then we have a frozen fillet for later in the week. Yeah. So we did this a couple years ago where it was like, let's try to fish and have, like Ryan also bow hunts, and some people will have opinions about this, but here's the rest of the story, is that we try to stock our freezer and have something that we've caught or he shot for a meal like 2 to 3 times a week. So it's actually doable. We have a lot of venison. We have a lot of fish.
So when he bow hunts, does he prep the deer or does he take that somewhere to do it? No, he knows how to do it all?
I think he's done it all. He'll do both. It depends.
Oh my God, I need to talk to Ryan. Have you ever heard of the show Alone?
No.
Oh my God, I feel like he needs to go on there. So our family's obsessed with it. They just drop these 10 people in the wilderness in Canada, and you just see who can last the longest. And you have to bow hunt because that's the only thing that's allowed up there. And then you can fly fish. Or you can make your own net or whatever. But we're obsessed with this show. I would make it one night. I would make a little teepee, sleep, and be like, I'm ready to go home.
And we're good.
Yeah. But I feel like Ryan could be really good at that.
That he would be with those two tools. Like Naked and Afraid, where you get to pick one item. I'm like, I don't know.
No, you get to bring 10 items.
Okay.
Plus you get to have like clothing, and they give you a tarp, and you get to have a bow and I think 9 or 10 arrows.
I would like that. I would be like, oh, don't pick me up. The only problem on any of those shows for me is I'm like, but I wear contacts.
So I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time. I'm like if I had to flee my home, I'm screwed.
It's the first thing you're grabbing. Computer, gold medal, like a sheet of contacts.
Backpack full of contacts.
I can't see. Can't see shit.
I can't either. I mean, I guess we just have to get used to our glasses, but it's not that great. No, it's not the same.
Then the sun comes out and you're like, oh, right. It's true, though.
It is true. I used to think about like when I was younger, I'd be like, how would I have survived years ago? Like, would I just be that person that sits in the house and people would have to bring me food? Because I can't see anything.
I know.
Like, I would just be worthless to my family. It'd be like, oh, well, that's my mom. She sucks. She just sits here. She can't do anything.
Holds down the rocking chair. You're just rocking.
She can't even read to me.
Wait, are your both like near and farsighted bad? Can you read without glasses?
I can read without glasses, okay. But I do have reading glasses, but I don't need them all the time yet. Okay. But I have my glasses are progressives because they're so strong that I can't read with my glasses.
Yeah.
It's too intense. I'm like, one of the great things about turning 46 is that somehow my eyes continuously get worse.
Like, it's not possible. Yeah, mine were like bad when I was around 6 years old. So it's just how I live my life. I
had Garfield glasses.
Did you?
Yeah, with Garfield on the side in 3rd grade. I thought they were so cool. And when I look back, I'm like, what the hell? It looks so horrific. Kids just have it so much easier now. Like, glasses are cooler now. You can get contacts younger now. Like, anyway.
I had ones with a little butterfly right here.
Oh, I love that for you.
Purple.
Did you have to wear this strap like when you like played soccer or anything? Like, I had to wear that strap on there to hold them on.
I don't think I was wearing them when I played soccer, and then I got contacts by the time I was in 6th grade.
Oh wow, you got contacts young. I got them in 7th grade, and that was young. Wow, look at you.
They were necessary. We've had long discussions about LASIK too. I don't know.
I'm nervous. I feel like I should have just done it years ago, but I'm nervous about it. And my eyes continue to change. So that's where I feel scared. Like, you go through all that surgery. And this is the one thing I will say. Everyone I talk to is like, you're an idiot. It's the best decision I ever made.
I feel like you don't hear horror stories though, and I think there are a lot of them. But those people don't have time to tell you because they're like, oh. You know what I mean? Like, they've been can't
paid
see
off
and they're
to
dying.
Silence. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I know. It's my husband's always like, I mean, with the amount of money you're spending on glasses and contacts and stuff, and I'm like, Warby Parker, I saved money. But you're right. I mean, if we would have just done it 10 years ago, but
you'd be doing it again by now.
Yeah. Who knows?
All right. Well,
okay. Should we move on?
Happy birthday. Happy birthday, so Kara. Let's talk about your amazing trials performance.
My performance? Yeah. It was you
did great.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel more confident than I did at the Olympic trials in 2021 for sure. I feel like I know the team better and I know what my strengths are better. There's always super nice people on the internet that like to tell me that I'm doing it wrong. But in general, I don't care, honestly, because I know that I'm better than they are.
Have you ever had your check bounce when someone on the internet told you that you did a bad job?
No, I usually get paid more.
Yeah, so you're all set.
I think like the races were just also good too. And that always makes the job easier. It's like the one thing that's hard is you prep so much and there's so many stories you want to tell. And then the reality is that as the race unfolds, you really just focus on the people fighting. And, like some people are saying, like, there's so many more people in the race than just the top 3. But, this is a meet to select our Olympic team. So we really are going to be focusing on those people. But the races were so good. And like I said, the athletes kind of select what you end up talking about depending on who leads or who's in that front pack. But I don't know. I thought it was one of the more competitive and exciting Olympic trials that I've seen. So it was awesome.
It's crazy that they keep getting better. You're like
Yeah.
that last day of track and field, the final day of the trials had to be one of the greatest hour and a half, 2 hour, whatever the program was, like, of track and field that we've ever, like, in America, have ever seen.
It was
like
crazy.
That segment was just like, what did I just see?
1 hour of just running events. And it was like, insanity the whole time. It was crazy.
Like, you can't get better than this. Oh, we're going to finish with a world record. Okay. Mic drop. Cancel all the rest of these. That was as good as it gets.
That was it.
They'll level up. They'll level up next time, which is crazy.
It's crazy.
Let's dig into the meat. Let's. Do you want to go into the last day? Do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about the women's 10K because we had sort of previewed it.
Yeah.
And then it went. And I guess let's just talk about it. Anything about it surprise you? The finish was Kaladi, Valby, Schweitzer. Top three.
I was at the track that day, and what's really funny is I didn't even know the finishing order because I was like trying to get on the front. My seats were way up high, and I was just like pushing people out, like just trying to yell at Jess, like, you don't know who's going to scratch. You don't know what matters here. Like, you fight for every spot. And she was aware and she was doing it. But like, I just wanted someone there to remind her, like, fourth might be significant. Fifth might be like, you take every spot. I don't care how you're feeling right now. So I'm like yelling at her on the edge there, and I missed the whole finish. And then I look back and I was like, holy shit, what a crazy finish. Tell me about it.
Totally crazy. So I will say that was smart to tell her, because if you had asked me, I would have said Valby was going to scratch the 10,000, because Valby said that she didn't even, initially she was just going to run the 5. She wasn't securely into the Olympic Games. So then she ran the 10. And she even said that she was, upset and crying and didn't even really want to do it. So I would have said fourth place is going to go, or, fight for every little thing. But I thought that Kaladi would push with 3 laps to go and open up some sort of lead. And it was like, normally I'm pretty good at predicting what's going to happen. Nothing that I said was going to happen happened. First of all, with the bell lap, I'm like, this has been set up perfectly for Schweitzer, who I later learned was more injured than she let on. Okay. The trials was the first time she had run every day. So she did a good job of like saying, I'm healthy but so I thought that was set up perfectly for her. She's right there at the bell. Mm-hmm, now she can just unload her, unleash her kick. And she did. She went, but Valby and Kaladi went right with her.
Like, and then, we're not scared. No bother.
Yeah, I was like, what's happening? Like, everyone can kick now. Like, everyone has a kick. Yeah. What's happening? And then they came around that final turn, and they were like trading leads. Like, Valby kind of went to the lead, and then Schweitzer kind of fought back, and then Kaladi just comes. Oh, Kaladi went with like, I want to say she went with like 250 to go and opened up a lead, and then they closed it down on her and passed her. And then she came back in the final 75 on the inside to win, which I didn't know she had that kind of fight in her, right? I just see her like get so far ahead that she can kind of relax in. So that surprised me, and I thought it was awesome to see her fight like that. Valby takes it to Schweitzer all the way to the line, ends up beating Schweitzer, getting second, super close. Yeah. It's not like Schweitzer failed. She got third by like a half a second or something like that. You know what I mean? But it just wasn't at all how I thought it was going to unfold. And, Kaladi impressed me a lot. Schweitzer, now knowing how injured she's been, I wish I would have known that, because I wish I would have been able to contextualize just how awesome her meet was. Mm-hmm. And Valby, I mean, that woman, she's ballsy, Des.
I mean, so much respect from the pros for her. So much
respect. Like she did take it at a certain point, which I thought she would. But when they came up, she was like, no. And I mean, she fought down that whole home stretch and didn't give them a millisecond to relax and got second. I mean, I was just like, tip of the hat. Some of the conversation around Valby has been, well, she can't kick or this or that. I'm like, give her a couple of years. No one's going to say that anymore.
The learning curve, too, just from the 5,000 rounds, I feel like that could have been such a moment where you're like, oh, I don't belong, or like, this is a different level.
Yep.
and it was like, no, like I just have to they tweak some things, and you didn't see her kind of fold like, oh, the pros passed me.
Right.
I'm happy to be third. It was like, oh, fuck you. I belong here too.
Yeah.
So good on her, and secured a spot on the team.
Yes. I mean, all three of them really, really impressed me. And it's a good team. At
Really
the same
team.
time, though, I will say I did not think that Valby was going to take that spot. I thought she was going to scratch that and take the 5,000 meter spot, because I was pretty sure that St. Pierre was going to scratch the 5,000 because her coach said they were doing it mostly like because she wanted to, but at the Olympics, the schedule's much tighter. And so I thought that Valby would scratch the 10,000. So I also was very invested in who was getting fourth and fifth. And McLean, per usual, ran so smart, closed well, got fourth, but it looked like she wasn't going to get to go if it went to fourth place. It looked like it was going to go to Amanda Vestry instead, because I guess McLean wasn't ranked so people have asked me to explain this better when we talk about it, which is like,
not possible.
Sorry, I don't even understand it. Yeah, but I can't remember what the pool is for the 10,000. The field size, is it like 27 or 32, something like that?
Like 32, yeah, or 28.
So even with people scratching out, McLean wasn't going to make that pool of people, but Amanda Vestry would have, and so it would not. Jess McLean would not have been able to go, which, leads to a whole nother conversation, which we've had a million times about why are we doing it this way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think that actually Jess ended up in the rankings. So if someone were to scratch at this point, I think she actually is ranked.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think she's like one of the last people in.
She must have just got in then. But yeah.
Matter.
It doesn't matter, because the top three have decided they're all going to go in that event. But I just am impressed by McLean and her ability to be away from the sport, struggle with the sport, have the sport break her heart, and then come back this year and have 2 fourth place finishes, and both times handle it with grace. Not be poor me, but be like, I did my best. And
I think one of the things that's interesting, and this isn't a knock on Jess at all. Obviously, I love Jess very much. But those three, it felt like we're in a different league, right?
Yeah.
Like they're 100%. And I think Jess right now is at 90%.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so if you're not fully committed, or you took time away from the sport, or I mean, even just like she just got her sponsorship with Brooks. And so it's like, oh, I'm becoming a full-time athlete again. And I heard this thing on a podcast that was with Will Smith. So whatever, people can be mad about it.
His birthday is also the same day as mine. Yeah.
Oh, happy birthday, Will. But he said, he's like, like 90% is halfway with these things. When you're talking about getting to greatness, like 90%, you're almost there. Like, no, you have 50% more work to do. And I think that that's what we saw in those front three. Like, everyone knew when they were going to go, they were the ones who were supposed to make the team. Right. And I think Jess is at 90%. Now that she's fully committed, she's back in it. If she wants to be in that group, she's got 50% to go. I'm not saying she can't do it, but I'm saying like that's the change between this group and that group.
I totally agree. But I also, and I think you'll agree, I think a year from now, it's a different story. A year from 100%. Now, she's like believing in herself again. She's put herself in the position twice to almost be on 2 wildly different Olympic teams. A year from now, she's like, yeah, I know I can be here. Right. And sometimes that's what happens, is like when we've talked about top American stuff, like you have to make those steps. And then I just see her as a totally different athlete next year of like, I deserve to be here. When that move goes, I'm probably going to go with it and take a risk. I mean, obviously she needs to be healthy and all that stuff, but I think the whole race could look very different a year from now.
I think that the poise and grace she showed in the post-race interviews is awesome, but I also know there's probably some fire in there that she's not showing, and that's where that gap's going to get closed, right?
She raced some race like on the 4th of July or right around there, and she got first female, 3rd overall, and she was like, oh, it's nice to not be 4th.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, girl.
that last 10% or what feels like 50%, like it's already shrinking.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Totally.
So next year, different story for Jess, I think.
Yeah.
Even I think she'll do something really special this fall.
Yeah, I do too. And good race out of Vestry too. She ran well, ran smart. She's sort of stepped into this new role of also, like, she's one of those people who started to believe in herself and believe that she belongs. And yeah, it was cool to see her come and execute and run well too.
And someone who also had that ranking that was really high, but I think she was sitting in 7th with a couple laps to go, or 2 laps to go, maybe maybe even the final lap. It was like she fought for every spot, because like 5th could have been significant, 4th could have been, and it's really easy in those moments to be like, oh, I've watched my Olympic dream slip away. The top 3 is up there, and get complacent. But she fought for every spot, so that goes a long way. I mean, that, even just in a lesson of not giving up.
Yeah, in 2000 was my first Olympic trials. I made the final of the 5,000 and I finished 7th. And I kind of, when the top 4 broke away, I kind of had this feeling of like, well, there it goes. And I'm just a college girl anyway. And I ended up 7th. Well, 5th ended up going to the Olympics. And it was a huge lesson for me. It doesn't mean I would have gone, but I definitely had that moment where I was like, that's it. There go the Olympics, instead of like fighting for every little spot. And again, it doesn't mean it would have changed. But, Regina Jacobs got injured. Dina decided not to double. And it opened up, 5th place got to go. And that was such a huge lesson for me of like, trying and failing is so much easier than not knowing. and so, I mean, fighting for those spots matters so much. And that's what we've seen now play out in the women's 5,000, because the winner was St. Pierre. 2nd place was Cranny. 3rd place was Schweitzer. 4th was Valby, and she hit the standard during that race. And I thought that Valby was going to take that spot. I thought St. Pierre will scratch and Valby will take that spot, but Valby decided not to, so went to 5th place. Whitney Morgan, what a great story from her too. Like, she's been injured. She's been beat up. She had surgery earlier this year, I want to say. Didn't start running till February. Cross-trained so much and put herself in that race. Her coach said they knew this was a possibility, and her coach was telling her to fight for every little spot. And her coach, Diljeet Taylor, there, if you haven't seen it online, she's like talking to her, FaceTiming her while Whitney just got done with a workout, and she's talking to her coach, and her coach is like, how's the workout, all this stuff. And she goes, how's your French? And she's like, what? And so anyway, that's how she found out she was going to Paris, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, look up that video. It's awesome. Like, I don't know, just great reward for grinding it out late. And obviously top 3, that's the whole thing. But when you fight for that every spot and it rolls down to you, you're like, holy shit, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a cool moment for her.
Super cool. What do you think about in the men's 5,000? So it was Fisher over Abdi Noor, and then 3rd place was Parker Wolf. And 4th place was Graham Blanks. They're both college kids. Parker Wolf's at UNC, right? And Parker Wolf's and Graham Blanks is at Harvard. And Parker Wolf closed faster than anyone in that race.
He was on he looked like he was on a bike, and everyone else was just jogging. It was crazy.
He was flying.
2 laps out, you're like, he is fucking sprinting.
He put himself in it, and I remember after the semi, he's like, well, I'm just going to put I have nothing to lose. Like, I've never even been in a final at the US Championship. So I'm just going to put myself in it. Like, what do I have to lose? And then he put himself in it. And then not only did that, he just annihilated it. Right? Like, he ran so well.
Like 55 last lap or something.
Yes. Like, something insane. And he got 3rd, but unfortunately he doesn't get to go to the Olympics because his ranking was not within the quota amount of athletes that they're allowing the field size. And so Graham Blanks, there's nothing wrong with him. He's a great guy. Finished
also
4th.
A great last lap, a great race from him. Like,
great race, but definitely like a clear 4th, and he's going to go. So I don't know. I see people upset about it, but it's not. I mean, it's not his fault.
Yeah, no knock against Graham Blanks. He did what he needed to do. He secured the time. Like, that's the game, and everyone sort of knew what the game was. And I think it even came down to that last meet where, like, what are the points that Wolf's going to get from this? I think it's what's his name, Parker Wolf.
Yeah, Parker Wolf.
Okay, just making sure I got it right. You know how that's going to bother me now. So, I mean, it's for him, like, maybe I got it, maybe I didn't, but he's focused on his NCAA season. It's just like Corrigan, the steeple man. Like,
yep.
At the beginning of the year, he's worried about statistics class. He wasn't thinking about, like, maybe, I don't know if I'm going to have enough points. And it's a bummer because I think our trials is so great and that system is so great, but it is what it is.
I feel like this is a moment for the NCAA to get on board with certain things because, James Corrigan was lucky that the steeple, in the sense that the steeple was early in the meet.
Mm-hmm.
So he still had time before that June 30th cutoff to go try to get the Olympic standard, which he did, which is so impressive and so awesome. Where Parker Wolf didn't have that because his race was on the very last day of competition. So that was it. There was no chance to chase standards. But because the NCAA, it just doesn't rank you. And I think this meet was a great example of why that should matter and why the NCAA should care. I mean, the NCAA put an athlete in the 800-meter team with just Juliette Whitaker, obviously Parker Wolf and Graham Blanks, and then Parker Valby, James Corrigan.
The sprints, which are,
Yeah, so many athletes in like the 400 and stuff on the women's side were collegiate athletes. So it's just, I don't know. It's too bad. It's too bad for Parker Wolf because he ran the race of his life when it mattered most, and he doesn't get to go.
The 5,000 was wild. It was a weird race. Awesome run by him. I think what's so funny about the trials, and I said this a couple times afterwards, is the whole thing is like, you have to show up on the day. You have to be at your best. You have to be ready to perform. And we saw that happen like across the board this final day. And I'm going to lead us into the women's 15 is like, yeah, I did that. I checked all the boxes that normally get you on a team. But now it's almost like you have to be ready on the day. You have to handle the pressure. And then you have to have a performance of your life, of a lifetime. Not even as just someone in the final, but like even as just the favorite. You have to exceed anything you've done before to make these teams now. Like people are leveling up. It's not just managing the trials and the pressure. It's like, oh, and I'm my best version of myself ever.
I know. So we were talking about this a little bit ahead of time, but I feel like the women's 1500 is a situation that will not be replicated anytime soon. I think you had every woman that made it through the prelim to the semi, they all said, we know the final is going to be fast. Every woman that made it from the semi to the final in those race interviews, they said, well, I can't look at the clock. I just got a race. So you have this attitude already of them knowing, because Ellie St. Pierre is in the final, they know she's not going to let us dilly-dally. So they already know this. So they've hyped themselves like, it's going to take the best race of my life. I can't even bother looking at the clock because the top three are going. This isn't a situation like the 5 or the 10.
They feel it out.
It's all or bust at this point. Like I put myself in it, or I might as well not even run in the final. And so you have this perfect, like as you said earlier, this perfect storm where St. Pierre is tired from the 5 and is like, well, I'll go run 2:05 for the first 800. How many people are going to go with that? But everyone else has everyone else has been going, Ellie's going to take it, and I just have to not look. And you heard woman after woman after woman competitor after competitor afterwards say, I didn't look at the clock once. I just ran. And that's why we saw the top 8 all run PRs. I never thought that I would say you had to run 3:55 to make the U.S. women's Olympic team in the 1500. I just thought that would never happen. But it was like the perfect situation, right? And I think some of those PRs that those women ran will be difficult to beat moving forward because it was just one of those perfect situations where Ellie took it. Nobody thought about anything except competing, which for me is the most exciting type of race to watch.
It'll be interesting if there's a shift in the women's 15 to how we've seen it in the men's, where like Timothy Chariot for a long time was kind of de facto pacer and he was just better. So Ingebrigtsen was like, I gotta hang on as long as I can. And then he got faster and stronger and he was like, okay, like this is the tactic that I know is best for me now. And yeah, I feel like we saw a shift to that on the women's side. And yeah, I mean, you're not going to get de facto pacer in a championship race with everything on the line.
Right.
I mean, for another 4 years.
No.
And then it's like, is someone going to take it out that aggressively? Is it the right players, around with experience? And I think everyone was really ready for that breakthrough too.
I think so too. And I think that's you can thank Faith Kipyegon for that. The bar has just been raised. So it's like, I was thinking Morgan Houston, I don't know if she ever broke 4 minutes. She was ranked number 1 in the world. I want to say
deal.
Like 2 years in a row. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think breaking 4 minutes, running 3:59, anything was such a huge deal. Well, now you're 10 seconds behind Paris Diamond League. 10 seconds. You're not even on the straightaway.
Right. Different race.
So, a totally different race. And so I just think this mental shift, I think the first couple of years people are like, oh, Faith's on another level. And then they were like, okay, well, she's not going away.
Yeah.
So are we just going to just give it to her, or are we going to start raising our bar? And I know a lot of talk on my Twitter the last day about how I'm ignoring doping. Of course, doping is happening. I'm not living under a rock, but I do not believe that they're all doping. I don't. And I think it's like the Roger Bannister story. Right? It was impossible. Nobody can break 4 minutes a mile. And then when he did it, within months, all sorts of people did it.
Right. It's floodgates.
So it's like the same exact thing with Faith raising the bar here. And so I just thought that women's race was so exciting. I can't believe that Sinclair Johnson ran 3:56 and she has to watch from home. But that's just where it's at. And again, it's all of these pieces coming together. It's everybody knowing that the event has changed. Everybody knowing that Ellie St. Pierre is not afraid to take it, being ready for that, and Ellie St. Pierre having the balls to take it.
Yeah. Right. No, she set that up in a crazy way that was like, you just have to respond. Sorry, This is what we're doing today. This is what's best for me. And like, how much more time does she have left in her legs if she's fresh and she's not leading?
Well, that's what I think. This isn't to take away from Nikki Hiltz or Emily Mackay, because I think they responded to the race, and who knows what more they have as well. But St. Pierre, I would not be shocked to see her run.
There's some room, right?
100%. Yeah. She led most of the semi and then the entire final, except for the last 100. You put her in a race where she doesn't have to think and she gets to just sit there. I think she can go so much faster, and also doesn't have 2 rounds of the 5,000 in her legs. It was interesting. I was listening to an interview with her coach, and he was saying, Ellie is tough as nails, but she's also sensitive, and she was feeling the pressure. It was interesting. He was saying, like, in the United States, it's always like, well, what have you done? What have you done lately? And I'm like, yeah I know. Welcome to a track and field career. But that she was really feeling that pressure. And so she kind of wanted to run the 5 to lessen the pressure, to be like,
okay, be on a team.
I'm on a team. And also in a weird way, like, I'm tired too. So quit looking at me I think it was probably brilliant, because she made both teams, and now she's going to focus on the 15, but it released some of that pressure for her, and she was able to get through, and she was cleanly through. She was clearly ahead of Sinclair Johnson. So I just thought that was super interesting. But I think Ellie St. Pierre has a lot more running in her legs too. Let her freshen up now. Let her not have to do the work. Let her tuck in. I mean, look what happened at World Indoors.
Do you think she sees Paris and is like, game on, let's go, I'm so ready for this? Or are you like, maybe I should have stayed in the 5 too?
That she should have also run the 5?
Yeah, like maybe I should have just done the 5, or maybe I should have, again, like the trials, like now maybe I wanted a second opportunity to try and medal.
Honestly, I think maybe this is the best situation, because some of the pressure is off of her now. Like, I had people on social being like, oh, you said that the U.S. was going to be a contender. Look what everyone did yesterday at the Paris Diamond League. I'm like, this is actually a great
contenders.
Yeah, it's a great situation for her. I don't want to put undue pressure on her, but I think she can run significantly faster than she's run. And now she comes in not as the Olympic trials champion and not with the world lead time. I feel like this helps her a little bit fly under the radar, although
she can shake it up with Jessica Holt too. Like, there's never been a race where they weren't right next to each other. Better than me, right?
Yes, yeah, totally. So it's like
a lot of confidence from that.
I think this is good for her, as long as she can recover from that, because that was a big effort. Yeah. I mean, we saw Cole Hawker not a factor in that 5 final. And I thought he would be.
Surprising.
Yeah, I thought they weren't running anything that he couldn't do, but he's tired. Yeah. And then same with Elise Cranny, she was exhausted too. So I think maybe as an audience, we underestimated just how much of an effort that was. And again, this is not to take away from Hiltz or Mackay because they responded off the race, right? So it's like, I'm not saying they could probably go faster too. Of course they could. But I think that maybe we underestimated just how much that took out of St. Pierre because everyone else that did that double really, struggled.
Not nearly as successful, right?
Right. Totally. Yeah.
Fair. Do you want to talk about the men's 8 or we just leave it? Because I feel like that was such a highlight.
The men's 8?
Yeah.
No, if it's a highlight, let's talk about it.
No, I'm talking about the 15. Like the women's 15 was like, that was, I feel like this is anticlimactic now.
Yeah. We can quick hit it, which was just that for me, I was super happy for Hobbs Kessler. Obviously, Bryce Hoppel, I think everyone expected him to win. I'm happy that he won. I think he's earned that title and he has like really pushed forward. But it was really cool to see Hobbs Kessler run that. And I wish I had called that race because, he's out the back at first because he doesn't have the pure speed. He's not a 400, 800 guy. He's a 1500
winding
guy.
Up.
Yeah,
right.
But then you see that second lap and Kessler's coming. Yeah, no shit. It's called strength.
Yeah.
And then
B. Miller Checkstar.
That's right.
Brandon Miller had a great his rounds, he looked really good. He looked super smooth. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
No. But it was awesome.
Yeah.
And he came down, just clenched that third spot like securely after, like you said, a semi where he surprised himself a little bit in the semi with how good he felt and how fast he went. So that was cool to see. He didn't leave it all in the semi. He obviously was trained perfectly to nail it the whole championship.
Yeah, and I think you got to give a hat tip to Isaiah Harris, his teammate, who I think he's always been right on the bubble and ready to make that team. Had an unlucky time in the rounds, but I think he stepped in and was probably just the best mentor Brandon could have had. And so you see him succeed and it's like, oh, this is about more than just this one guy. I think having Isaiah kind of work him through that probably went a long way and won't get talked about nearly as much as it could or should.
I love that. I love Isaiah Harris. He's just seems like such a nice guy. And he was talking, both he and Brandon were talking to Colt at the Brooks PR meet, just could not have been nicer. So Colt was really excited about that, but he was bummed for Isaiah. But the men's 8 was awesome, but the women's 15, sorry, but it really did steal the show.
Love that. All right. That was the meet. What a meet. Geez, it was, I think you saw those results and you're like, okay, everything else is going to be boring.
Right.
And then
Paris Diamond League said, hold my beer.
Hold my beer. Wow. Yeah, I saw the women's 15 and the men's 8 there, and those were like jaw droppers. Obviously a world record in the high jump.
Mm-hmm.
So crazy stuff's happening, and I think you get that momentum and that energy and sort of like that feeling that it's going to be a special day, and then people just continually respond, and then it's momentum. Like it's just like this snowball, and that's sort of how it felt just seeing those results roll in.
The men's 800 was bonkers.
Three men
at 141, right?
Yeah.
And did they go 2, 3, 4 fastest times of all time or something like that?
Probably.
They made the all-time list. I'm like, okay. But I don't call that, so I don't follow as closely. But the women's 1500, I do believe, was impacted by the women's in the U.S. I think they watched that and they were like, okay.
Step up. Gotta step up.
Like, if they can do it, I can do it. There's so much of that stuff that happens, right? Like, Shalane wins New York. You're like, I can do that. You win Boston. Like, that's how it works. Mm-hmm. And I think that they saw the U.S. women and they were like, all right, here we go. And it was kind of funny afterwards reading all the interviews and quotes because Faith Kipyegon lowered her own world record by, I don't know, maybe 500ths of a second. Wasn't even thinking about going for a world record, but was running scared because Jessica Hall was on her.
She's on her, right? PRER, right? Like, you gotta get it done.
Jess Hull's having a crazy breakthrough of a year. 357 was her PR at the beginning of the year. I think she ran 355, I want to say, at pre. Or maybe 356. No, 355, I want to say, at pre.
I could look it up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she ran 355 at pre. I think she beat Ellie there. Okay. And then she just ran 350. I can't remember how many people are faster than her. But
insanity. But that sort of jump, like that big of a jump in that short of a time period. I mean, statement.
Yeah, and it's not like she just started, right? She's been around for a while. So something is clicking for her. And it always cracks me up because Laura Muir is so good and consistent. So
consistent.
When you make Laura Muir look like she's way back there. Silly. By the way, she ran 353.
Right. So Jess Hull went 355.97
at pre.
And then 350.83 in Paris. So we'll see what else she has left for the year.
Insane. I know. Well, so she said that her workouts have been clicking and she didn't want to wait for Paris. She wanted to just like let it go. And I think it was a good move because you don't get paced by someone like Faith Kipyegon very often where you have the world record being set right in front of you, right?
Right.
I mean, it was the perfect time to take a huge risk, but the whole race was bonkers. I mean, even that, it was like PR after PR after PR.
Yeah.
What did you think when you saw Jess Hull 350? I was like, what?
I don't know what to think anymore. Like, I kind of am just on pause on what I should be expecting.
Right.
Because I think the other thing, too, is like, huge run for Jess Hull. Who is going to respond to that in the same type of way? So maybe it's not crazy. Like, oh my gosh, this is a whole new level for Jess Hull. Like, you know, we could see Laura Muir come back and do the same thing. We could see Ellie St. Pierre go like, oh, she can do it. I can do it. And so then all of a sudden it's like, well, she's just matching up exactly where she always matches up.
Right.
Which also makes you wonder about Kipyegon. Like,
right.
You know, does she have, this is her first race of the year?
Her first real race. Yeah. Right. I mean, she ran the Canyon Trials, but I think about her too. Like, I think what visually was weird was to see somebody with Faith Kipyegon that late in the race, right? Like that's what visually was like, wait, what's happening? Because we're so used to seeing Faith way ahead. But that's the goal, is that people eventually start, that they don't just give it to her. Right. That they're like, okay, well, I'm going to still try to race her. Right. Yeah. I do think that, I think she could go a lot faster. You know, so people were saying, oh, you should get her a rabbited race after Paris. Then people are saying, well, people are burnt out after the Olympics. But I was like, actually, this might be the perfect opportunity because her season started so late.
Yeah.
That maybe set up a race for her a week or so after the Olympic Games that's paced at 3:47. I mean, that's the thing, is the times are so stupid that it's like, you know, we have our text thread and it's like, you know, I mean, 359 used to be a huge effing deal. But what is 359 now? I don't know. And also, I don't want to be negative, but it's not like Shoe Tech entered the conversation on the track in 2019 and then 2021 for the masses. And then like they just stopped innovating it. Like, you know, we don't really know. And so it's hard. It's hard to know what we're witnessing. I do not believe that all these women are doping. I just don't. So it's like, okay, you know, obviously 349 doesn't mean what it meant 10 years ago. 350 doesn't either, but 350 is still 350.
Yeah. You know? I mean, my jaw's still on the ground, and then I think I'll slowly pick it up and put it into context as context fills in, right? Like, right. Okay, how is this proportionate to the rest of the world, to the rest of the folks we just saw at the trials? You know, when Faith gets going, does she have another like, oh, now this all slots back into place and I see the whole picture. I feel like we just have limited data points right now.
Right. I agree.
And we don't have all the information of not just data points, but like tools. Like,
right.
You know, like I don't know if it's more shoe tech. I don't know if it's better nutrition, whatever. We're seeing these crazy jumps across the board. And you kind of got to go like, why? Is there something else or not? I'm not sure. And so without that, like, it's hard to make sense of what we're seeing.
I believe a lot of people are doping. I don't think anyone Like, just to be clear, but I also think we're seeing this time shift across everything. High
across the
school,
board.
college,
Yeah.
every single level. So I'm not convinced that all high schools are doping and college people are doping and all pros are doping. I don't believe that. I don't believe, I believe that a lot, but again, listen, I can be a cynical, I've seen some shit in my life, right? But I don't believe that you have to dope to be on the podium, because otherwise, how did I end up on the podium? I just don't believe that. So sure, of course we could be talking about a drug thing here, but everyone's doing it all the way down to the high schoolers. Something's happening here, and I can't grasp it yet, right? And I don't know, but we're seeing it everywhere.
Right.
So
it's not like you're, this training group or this country
totally,
or
totally.
you know, it's widespread. And then you factor in the shoes, better tracks. Like there's all these little
all
things.
sorts of stuff.
So yeah, I mean, I think maybe in a couple of years we'll be like, oh, they came out with this, I don't know, a recovery method or whatever, double thresholds. I don't think that's it.
It's
but
not
you know what I
double
mean?
threshold.
Like there'll be something that you're like, oh, that really turned up here. Now it's like not just correlation causation, but actual, like this was causation,
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see what happens there. I know I'm just not negative on it yet. I'm like excited.
What? You know what we can be negative on?
What?
UK athletics.
Yeah, boo.
Boo.
Boo, 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 boo.
Thumbs down.
Okay, so explain it to everyone who may not follow the sport as closely as we do.
Yeah, so the Paris teams are being kind of put out into the world right now. Their countries are putting together who is going to represent them in the Olympics. We see this time and time again. We saw this World Indoors. We saw this at World Championship Outdoors. The UK Athletics selects their team. And even if you have these crazy hard standards, or if you get yourself in the rankings through competition, head-to-head competition, if UK Athletics, I don't know who that includes, just a random room of people with UK Athletic t-shirts on, decides you have the standard, you have the ranking, but we don't think that you're going to go in there and compete for a medal. We're keeping you home. You won't inspire. You're not worthy of being an Olympian, and we don't want to spend money on you. So we have the US system where we're trying to fill out the biggest team possible. Oh, you weren't top 3. You know what? Who's the next person we can bring? Man, that sucks. We're going to try to figure this out for the future. But in the meantime, we want to field the biggest team possible to go and have this experience and this opportunity. There's one side of it. The other side is limited, exclusive. Like, if you can't medal, we will not send you. So obviously we're biased. Our system, I love it. I'm speaking for you, but I like what we do. And I think that we've seen results. Like, look at the medal counts, look at the medal table, look at the progression across the board of the athletes. It seems like it's working. UK Athletics has stuck with the system for a long time, and their teams are still small, not a lot of depth. So that's my hot take. Hate it. I wish they would send athletes. I think huge disservice for people who work super hard. To have the title Olympian is like something you dream of. Future earnings, like even just to share with your family when you're older and say, hey, I did this thing, I put my heart and soul into it, and I got to compete in this stage. Like, to have a committee be like, you're not good enough, meh, that
right,
it bothers me greatly.
I mean, to say if you don't medal, you don't matter, destroys everything that the Olympics is about. And I just want people to realize these people have met the requirements. They've hit the standards, or they are securely in the rankings. And UK Athletics is saying like, no. And they're not even letting them pay for themselves to go. Like, it's like, I don't understand it. I can't tell you how many people, sure, there are some people who go to the Olympics and knock it out of the park, but most people, it's a thing where they go and they get the experience. The Olympics is very, very, very overwhelming. It is like nothing else that you will possibly do. Remember, Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone went to the Olympics before she won in Tokyo. She went to Rio. She was totally overwhelmed by the entire experience, didn't make it out of the semis. 5 years later in Tokyo, she wins. And
Noah Lyles.
Noah Lyles. Thank you.
No
There's
gold medals
so
yet.
many examples. Shalane Flanagan went in the 5,000 in Athens, was, and also goes again in Beijing and wins a silver medal. So it's like you learn so much by being there. And also that's like, it's so hard to make it. And then to tell someone you're not important is just crazy, because to even meet the qualifications is so hard. And so I just feel like this is so short-sighted, and especially from a country that prides themselves on being a historically amazing track and field country. It's like, what the hell are you doing? I just don't get it. It is so wild to me. And it's like, if it's a money issue, then let the athletes pay for themselves.
Yep.
I would pitch in to help these people go. Like, give me a break.
That's a great GoFundMe.
Right.
Don't love them all, but I would help someone go to the Olympics, right? Like, hey.
And I'm sure there would be some
brand's going to step up, right?
Yes, things are going to step up to put these athletes on the team. Like, they have met all the requirements. It's like if we were like, well, we're not going to send Whitney Morgan because we don't think she's going to medal. Or Parker Valby, yeah, well, you didn't actually hit the time in the 10,000, and really your best chance at a medal is 4 years from now. What? Right. No, she earned that spot, and she's going to go and get invaluable experience that she will take with her, hopefully in 4 years. And also, why is medals the only thing that matters?
Right.
The whole,
most participants at the games will not medal. Mathematically, we're 99%
of people are not medaling
and fail, right?
Right.
Like, but and someone on Twitter was like, "Oh, sure, participation trophy." I'm like, okay,
yeah, you don't get to the Olympics because you're participating.
The standard here is
so high,
dramatically different. So yes, if it's a participation trophy to be called an Olympian, this one I can get behind.
Me too.
And I'm not a participation trophy person. I don't,
But we'll go with that here. If that's what we're going to go. Yeah. And another thing, like we were talking about doping earlier, this absolutely incentivizes doping.
100%.
If it only matters if you're a medal contender, what are you telling athletes? Either athletes are going to be like, well, I don't know that I'm ever going to reach that level. Maybe I could be top 8, so I guess I should just retire. Or one of the other options is, fine, fuck it, I'll dope my way there then. So it's just so short-sighted. I can't even believe it. It's so frustrating.
Particularly when you see the Paris results and you see these explosions of fast times. It's like, how the hell can I keep up? Like, I worked my ass off to eke my way into the games. I made it. This is awesome. I want to go get that experience and then try to level up. And it's like, no, do it now or move on.
Be done.
So what's the quickest way?
Yeah, exactly.
Hate it, hate it, hate it.
Hate it, hate it. Boo.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I think we should take a dramatic shift.
Okay.
2 things here. One, so many great stories in the trials, and we do have an interview with one of our favorite stories. We're going to tack that on to the end. But first, Super Coffee Super 5. All right. What do you got? Is that a vanilla?
Mm-hmm. Vanilla latte.
Okay.
It is sweet. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
It's very sweet, but it's very good.
Double shot espresso
very tasty.
And cream. And I think they do one without the cream that might not be as sweet. But dude, these in the summer,
when they're chilled.
I've not been making a lot of coffee. I've just been grabbing that and getting a little extra protein for my muscles. My muscles. And okay, we should do this now because I don't think we're going to have a show leading into this. Amazon Prime Day is coming up. You can go to our link. We'll have a special link for Prime Day and use code nobody asked. And on Amazon Prime Day, you'll get 25% off.
That's a good deal.
Give it a try. Show them that you listen to Nobody Asked Us, that you support the pod, and we get to keep doing this. And you get to be super caffeinated with super coffee and help a kind of a family-owned company. So,
I will say, you guys have been awesome about supporting the brands that have supported us, which was kind of our fear when we got approached by a streaming platform. Like, well, we really need our listeners to support these brands. Otherwise, we're going to have to go this route. So just a thank you to everyone, because I see people saying like, well, where can I get super coffee, or where can I get my Olipop, or Brooks or whatever it is, we super appreciate it because it's allowing us to stay authentic and do what we want to do. So,
well, I think there's a whole episode too. Like, it's also, we're pretty particular about the sponsor.
Oh yeah.
Like, if GNC is like, hey, do you want to, can we sponsor the pod? I think we would both be like, I don't think so. Like, there's no dollar amount that I would be like, huge muscle, ripped face supplement, like, we're like, no, we don't want that on our, and that's the streaming platform. We lose sight of that. And they're like, well, you can give us some of the people that you don't want to work with, or this is easier. So please support the brands that support us and make this all happen. And they're good. Like, this is good stuff.
It is good. Okay. So I'm going to lead us off.
I love this. I wrote a list, but go.
I'm going with James Corrigan in the steeplechase.
Great one.
His race at the trials was freaking amazing. I hope you've watched the video of Ed Eyestone realizing he's going to make the team, going absolutely nuts. And then this just faith that I will go and run that standard, even though it was going to be a massive PR for him. He goes and runs this race a few days ago, or no, it's a little over a week ago now, and just nails it coming down, gets the standard by 1.17 seconds, I want to say, but just having that belief in yourself, getting it done. I've never even met the guy. I'm a super fan. I am so excited to see him race in Paris. So James Corrigan, my shout out. Good job.
That mental shift to be like, top 3, I made it, I didn't make it, like, I got to get back on again.
Yes. Yeah. And like just days later, right? Like the steeple final was Monday. Right. And then he came back Saturday.
Runs the race of his life. And they're like, hey, you got to do it again and be a little bit better.
Yeah.
And he does it.
Yeah.
Definitely a Super 5 moment. All right. Tough to top, but I've got Christina Cool Ranch Clemens, the hurdler with the Doritos sponsorship.
Yes.
Christina Cool Ranch Clemens. That was awesome. Love the creativity. I love that she was like, I'm going to freaking cold call these brands and get a dope sponsorship. She had some interviews afterwards and was like, this is more lucrative than any shoe deal I've ever had. Like, I went out and hustled for this. I told them that it would be worth it, and they made it happen. And then, of course, because nothing can be simple, they were like, hey, you can't wear that uniform. So she was like, I got these little orange pieces. They were like, we have to tape it up. She's like, I'll do it. So she cut the orange tapes in the Doritos like shapes. And you're like, yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's so creative.
I was
so smart.
About that because so she wore Doritos earrings at the 2021 Olympic trials. And then, she came sponsored by Doritos and she had the logo, but just being with Oiselle when they were trying to get a uniform approved and USATF wouldn't approve it, I was like, how'd she get that approved? And then she came up the next round with like Doritos all over it, but it didn't say Doritos. So that's so great that you heard that interview because I was wondering about that. How smart.
It's brilliant. Bravo to her. I hope Doritos keeps paying her because I was interested and I thought she put on an amazing show. So Christina Cool Ranch Clemens, hats off to you.
Okay, I don't have any other really good ones. I mean, I have one, but it's not that good. So I feel like if you have a list, you should keep rocking.
Okay, all right. I got one more on my list that's like top notch. Anna Cockrell.
Oh, who doesn't love her?
Runner up. She had an amazing race. I feel like she just leveled up every round. She was weirdly like not attacked, but there was a lot of people getting after her during the uniform thing. Like she was at the show, like modeling it. And she's like, guys, they're awesome. And they're like, what do you know? And she's like, no, I'm literally in it. Like, it's fucking awesome. So like I messaged her and was just like, hey dude, keep fighting the good fight, whatever. And I've always thought she was awesome. She had a great response. And then, so I was rooting for her, like became a fan even more so. She's just so level-headed. After her race, she runs lights out good, makes her second team, sits down with her interview and takes the time to congratulate and thank and just praise Dalilah Muhammad. I thought that was a lights out good interview, just stand up person. So I'm rooting for her in Paris and, she deserves that moment too. Like congrats to her and that she got to shout out Dalilah Muhammad was really neat.
I thought that was so cool because we all love Sydney McLaughlin-Lerone. She is amazing. She's something we've never seen. But before Sydney, Dalila was doing stuff that we never thought was possible, setting the world record, winning the Olympics, winning the world championships. And I feel like sometimes when like Dalila's career was so good, but it was before like crazy content and all this stuff. And now we have Sydney, and it's like Sydney isn't Sydney without Dalila paving that path.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't a knock on Sydney at all, but I just thought Anna Cockrell like saying that and bringing her into the conversation was, I hate the word classy, but it was like super classy.
It's a touching moment.
It really was. And it's like a reminder of, you gotta see it to dream it and to dream big. And I feel like Dalila Muhammad really pushed that event forward. We're talking about the women's 400-meter hurdles, and Sydney saw that. Like, I think there's something about when the bar is here when you're coming up, and that's why I think about the women's steeplechasers right now. Like, they came up with Emma Coburn and Courtney Frerichs, who won Olympic medals, and it's like the bar is high. So
That's
of course they think big, right? Of course they think, because that's what they grow up watching.
The
and
expectation,
so, the expectation's high. So that was an awesome moment. That's a good one.
Thank you. I wrote those 2 down. So
right.
I'm all out.
All right. Well, here's my second one, which will be number 4, which isn't that good. But
that's okay.
It's just a shout out to the month of July because it's my birthday, it's Chris's birthday, and it's your birthday month. And Will Smith's.
And Will Smith.
So
what is 9 months? What's 9 months ago?
What is 9 months ago? I'm not good at that.
Let's not think about it. Okay. I'm going to let you read Chris's comment to plug in on this July section here.
Well, I know, Chris, we were waiting for that one. He's like, don't forget, he's like our dad right now.
Okay, so is that going to be number 5?
Yeah, that'll be the final one.
Okay. Do you want to do it?
No, you do it.
Okay. Great. Well, I guess thanks for listening to the end. You get a little teaser treat. You get a Cool Ranch snack coming in here. I'm going to be in Paris. Kara's going to be in Paris. We're going to get the band together and bring you some Olympic content, recaps, hot takes, freshy fresh, all of the things. They're going to be probably micro episodes, so much shorter than this one, but hopefully jam-packed with fun information. And we're excited to get those out to you. So early August is going to be packed. We're excited. Please keep listening. We love having you guys listen, tune in, bump us up the charts. It's really fun. We're not competitive at all. So, we're not keeping track of the rankings or anything, but I think that this stretch of Olympic content is going to blow the charts up.
We're really excited. We are really excited about this opportunity. We might also be working with another platform that we can't wait about, but just to be able to, like Des said, these will be smaller hits, but to just give our reactions, be there, feel the excitement. We're both going to be in Paris. So we hope you guys love it too. We're really, really excited about it. Chris, not so much, because we're going to be sending him content in the middle of the night and he's going to have to flip it around.
Hurry up,
whatever.
Chris,
He'll be fine.
We'll send him some super coffee.
Yeah, exactly. We're super excited about it. So we hope you guys are too, and that you'll tune in. And, hopefully this makes more people tune into the Olympics, which is one of our goals, is to grow our sport. So yay.
Love it. All right. Well, trials recap. What a whirlwind. So many great stories. I think one of my favorite stories of the whole trials was Eric Holt, unsponsored man with an awesome chance to make the team. Freaking whirlwind of a trip. And we're so lucky after all of this, with a little bit of time to reflect. We've got Eric on the show. Eric, how you feeling? How you doing? Give us some quick highlights of just a crazy, wild trials experience.
I mean, it was definitely an insane emotional roller coaster. I mean, I would say, my goal was to make the finals in both the 15 and 8. Unfortunately, I didn't do that. So I went from like a very disappointing 1,500-meter run. And then I didn't think I was going to get sponsored at all. And then at the very last second, my agent Liam said that Puma was interested. And the deal looked really good. And I was also able to represent Empire. So then I was at like an all-time low to an all-time high. And I was like, oh my God, I finally accomplished my dream of being sponsored. And then the 800s began and I felt really good. I I managed to make finals, and then I unfortunately found out I got DQ'd. So went from another all-time high to an all-time low. And then luckily, after being obviously very disappointed about the way trials went, now it's like I got into a really fast heat at Murphy. So now like we could potentially still have a really good summer despite failing to make the Olympics. So, I mean, the trials have been a lot of all-time highs in my career and a lot of all-time lows. So, I mean, it was an insane whirlwind. And honestly, I didn't expect, despite my, performances, I didn't feel like they were not the most spectacular. I was surprised about the amount of attention I was able to gain and garner. Like, I mean, it's just kind of crazy. I mean, I didn't like, Chris Chavez from City Smag. Thanks for him. I mean, this whole trial is like, I felt like I had a lot more attention than I ever thought I was going to get. And, it inspired me to, continue running. And now I'm in a position where I can, be more financially stable. And I'm excited, especially with like the Michael Johnson League next year. It's just, there's a lot of, benefits for me to continue running. So it's just been like a crazy couple weeks. This last couple weeks have been insane. So it's been crazy.
Yeah.
Eric, I remember at the Olympic trials in 2021, that was my first year as a broadcaster. And I remember knowing about you, and there was this thing, Holt Mania, and all this stuff going on. So tell us the difference, because I feel like you were grabbing the public's attention then. What happened in the last 3 years? I mean, like, you were an NBC storyline. When we found out you got signed, we were all like texting each other, we did it. Not that we had anything to do with it, but we were all like genuinely so excited for you. So what has, like, the last 3 years, you came back in here still hungry. Like, what is it the last 3 years that made you keep going?
It's been crazy. I think honestly, I have to go back to like COVID. I mean, I was like after college completely done with the sport. I was like, working in a psych ward, and I continued working there until like 2023. And to me, that's what my dad does. He works in a psych ward, and it was like the only job that I was able to get. And so I was like thinking like, oh, should I join the military? Should I just work in a psych ward the rest of my life? Like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life. And I remember my mom always said, you should do stuff that you enjoy to do. You only have one life. And I honestly thought the boat has sailed, because I felt like I tried really hard in running, and I never broke 4 in college. I never made NCAAs in college. And there was a pro group called NJNY, 40 minutes away from where I lived, that lost all their sponsorship. And, I tried to join that group earlier, right out of college, but, the whole thing with gags and everything, I just wasn't able to join. So eventually, once Tom Nohilly and Trotman, they, commented on one of my runs on Strava, because I was still kind of like running a little bit during COVID, and they told me to like come to practice for Empire, and then, again, an unsponsored club. And I remember being like one of the slowest guys on the team, not able to really run at them because I wasn't in good shape. And, slowly but surely, like, I got better and better. And, I had a lot of like friends that like motivated me, and, we were just trying to like run kind of quick. And then we went from that to making trials and, having a lot of like big wins for Sidious Mag. And I think it was just because I was just an underdog. I was just trying to run. I wasn't like trying to be necessarily a pro at the time. And, it was just crazy. Like, I was just literally some guy running that Tom Nohilly, my old coach from now the coach at Atlanta, and Trotman just found. And I was able to get better and better. Like, I wasn't this like great college stud. And, it's just like, it is special when you're able to do things you never thought you were able to do, and, I do love this sport. I do enjoy competing, and it is fun just getting better every year and running times that you didn't think were able to do. And, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like people kind of gravitate toward that, like, because in a way I am an underdog, and it's just like every year, I just want to do more things. I get better. I run more mileage, I up everything. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just like, it's crazy. It's just like, every year it's like, all right, I guess I'll run another year. Oh, wow. Now, like, I'm making money. I'm now a professional. I never thought I'd get here, it's kind of crazy.
That's cool. You did mention Empire in there, and I thought it was a really neat thing in the post-race interviews. You had the new kit, the Puma kit, but it was already branded with Empire. That seems so important to you. Can you just tell us a little bit about the club, the support you're receiving, and then, what your affiliation with them will be moving forward? Because I think holding on to that was obviously super important and valuable. So I would love people to know a little bit more about Empire.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's very important, and I always want to make this clear. I only got to this level, I only had this success because of, John Trotman, my coaches at Empire Elite, and the support system, it gave me. Like, I feel very privileged because, I never paid, Empire any money. And honestly, like, there's a lot of times where Empire is in the hole for thousands of dollars and they just rely on, sponsors to keep it afloat. And, Trotman and No Hilly, like, they were just so selfless with the club. And, I was in a position where, I wasn't like able to like join any other clubs, and Empire took me in, believed in me, gave me the best coaching I've had in my career. I have a strength and conditioning coach, we have a nutritionist, and through the good and bad times they were always there for me. So I felt like if I joined like an Under Armour group or some other group that was sponsored, I felt like I would be abandoning Empire. Like, honestly, the reason I joined Puma is because like I get to support Empire. And I tell everyone on my team this. I would love, in the future, hopefully some of my teammates could get sponsored potentially by Puma, and then eventually like the team could get sponsored, because that would be like a fairy tale ending. And like I feel great like going to a club that's unsponsored and still representing this club while being sponsored, because I it feels right. Like, I don't want to do my coaches wrong, because I know like they like, especially Trotman, he sacrifices so much for this club, and all my teammates sacrifice so much. We're doing this, in my opinion, like, because we love running. We're not doing this to be rich. And so the fact that I can be sponsored and still represent Empire, it shows everyone that I'm still part of this amazing club. And my goal is to hopefully, get my teammates sponsored and eventually the club. And I want Empire Elite to be in the glory days of NGNY. That would be the best case scenario. And, we'll see. But the fact that Puma is perfectly fine with me representing Empire Elite is just amazing. Like, this is exactly what I wanted, and, hopefully we'll see down the line what happens. But I mean, it's just great that, I was able to bring some attention to my club and get also the club some donations so we can survive,
I think that's one of the things people like about you, right? Like, you have this club that isn't the flashy club, doesn't have a ton of money behind it, but you're super loyal to it and you believe that they are the reason you've been successful. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that, something that they love dearly, that you're not walking away from it just because now you have a sponsorship. I think that's really cool. Okay, but how did Eric Holt start running? Because this is something, even in my NBC research, I do not know. And I've listened to you a lot. How did you get into the sport of running?
It's kind of funny, and a lot of people, my close friends know this, but honestly, one of the biggest reasons is I have a childhood friend. His name is Jacob Sweet. He actually does a lot of my social, or helps me with my social media, and he's been my biggest supporter since I was a little kid. And I mean, he was a Yale alumni. He's like one of my smartest friends, and this guy, he's been there for the thick and thin. So after I graduated college, I was able to break 4 unattached, and he was like my coach basically, and he would like, take time away from his busy day and help support me. And I talk to him almost every day, and he's just like been always like a great mentor. And when I started running in high school, like I was good, but honestly, it was always like Jacob. He would always like tell me, it's like, man, you got so much potential. You could be so great. And he's part of the reason that gave me the confidence I have today. And he's always the one's like, this is it. This is your moment. You can be great. And so I've always had a good friend like Jacob. I've always had good mentors. And, it's just something that I don't know, it's hard to describe. I felt like I could do something with the sport. I felt like I could always get better, and I just been very privileged to have been surrounded by the right people. And, when I struggle in certain departments, I have people that help me, and I always ask for help. And honestly, it's just like I've been in the right place at the right time. Unfortunately, didn't have like the great college career. I was okay in high school, but I don't know. I just every time I feel like giving up, I had the right people around me, and like my coach now, John Trotman, and they're like, "Listen, you can do this and that. You can be this great, and we believe in you." And it just like that support just allows me to keep on running. And it does feel great when you have a friend like Jacob who is like very successful, worked for Harvard, like incredibly academically smart. And he's telling me, dude, you got to run. Like, you have to do this. So it's like, hey, if he's telling me to do this, I got to continue running. And if he thinks I can be great, maybe I can be great. So I don't know. I would say for me, it's just like the support that other people gave me. It just gave me confidence. And, I'm not naturally the most confident person, but when I have people that believe in me, I feel like I can't let them down. I have to train hard. And, I just hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And through my trials and tribulations, it just sometimes I get there and I get a little momentum, and then, you have some success.
You do, and you're like on a roll right now. And I feel like you see all these kind of pieces lining up at the trials. It sounds like you're in a great headspace coming off of the trials, even after the DQ, and you're physically in a great spot. You got some summer stuff lined up. With everything kind of in place now, how are you staying motivated? Like, what's the next goal for you to reach, and how do you not get complacent? Because I think that sometimes when you hit that big goal, whatever it was, it's like, okay, now I'm on easy street. But I think we all know that you got a lot of things you want to get done. What's keeping you motivated, and what's exciting for you?
My goal has always been to run at least 144 in the 800. And, after running 145.05, technically it was a DQ, but I'm very confident that I will run 144 this Friday in Memphis. And that's just been like a lifetime goal, especially since, throughout my career, I've gotten told I don't have foot speed. I run a little awkward. And there's been some runners that told me I wasn't that good, and their PRs were 145 low. So I'm like, my lifetime goal is to run at least 144. And also 4 is my lucky number. So, I mean, I'm very motivated this week to run 144 and to tell myself that if I was in the finals, I would have been a factor. So I want to win that race. I desperately want to run 144. And especially if I want to get into this Michael Johnson league next year, I got to hit some good PRs, and I need to lower my 800 and 1500 PRs significantly, because it's crazy. I mean, this track world's insane. You see all these guys run 141. It's just like 144 isn't as good as it used to be. So I'm just trying to catch up to everyone else, and I'm very motivated, because I'm not going to lie, the trials was a big disappointed. So if anything, I'm more motivated now than ever. And I want to show Puma that, I'm worth the commitment. I am only going to get better. And I'm really motivated and excited for this Friday.
I mean, I think the commitment that Puma made in you, it's already paying off. Like, I think, I know you want to run fast, and I think you can run fast, but I think it's more like the way you talk, the way you open up, the way you talk about your doubts, or like having to believe in something for so long. I think that's why their investment's already paid off, because people want to hear from you. You're not one of those people that was like a high school star and then went to college and then got invited to the best team. And most people aren't. You know what I mean? That's like, most people don't have that story, but you've refused to quit. And I think that's why people want to hear from you and people want to follow what you're doing. I'm hearing you talk about like how bad you want to do this. How are you going to stay level-headed? Because you know you can do it. You've trained enough. We saw you in the trials in that semi. You looked amazing. I thought it was kind of bullshit you got DQ, but whatever.
Yeah.
How do you say, okay, I want to go do this, but not make it so big, right? Like you just need to keep doing you. How are you mentally handling all that? And with the attention you're getting and with the new sponsorship, like how are you handling all of that?
I would say the last week was pretty rough just because I was just trying to get over just the disappointment from trials, and the DQ did really affect me. But for me, it's like, all right, I got this great opportunity. I'm honored to be in the fast heat at Ed Murphy Classic, and all I got to do is be competitive and don't step on the line and just try my best to win. I just had a really good workout this morning. So the workout shows me I'm more than capable of running 144. So I just got to just race, try my best not to get too nervous, just control what I can control. And if I put in my best effort, I'm confident that I'll have good results. And I'm in a position where it's like, I feel like if I can do everything that I can do, that I'm capable of, that I'll be in a position where, I can do big things in the future. And, obviously didn't make the Olympics, but this next coming year is huge. In track and field, you have the Michael Johnson League, and they want runners that run both the 8 and 1500. And I feel like that perfectly suits me. So if I can get in that, that would be huge for me. So for me, I'm very excited for that. And sometimes after big disappointments and after big moments like the trials, you just unfortunately have to be like, all right, it's over. And I didn't make it. But now there's some big things coming up next year. You got Worlds, you got the Michael Johnson League. And I just have to always think about the next big thing and just train and try to get excited for these other meets and do your best, because I think this type of sport is very important that you stay motivated, that you stay excited. Because I think for me, I know when my career is over, when I lose that excitement, when I lose that, oh my God, this is, if it becomes boring, which thankfully the sport hasn't. So, that's basically my headspace. It's just I'm excited. I know I can still improve, and there's a lot of big things coming next year. So it's very important that I have still a very successful summer.
What's more exciting for you next year looking ahead? Is it Michael Johnson's league and maybe that possibility, or world championship? Do you feel like there's a conflict there that you're going to have to commit to one or the other?
I love racing. I think I like racing more than some of my competitors, and I know I'm durable. So I don't think there will be that much of a conflict.
Yeah.
But I think the sport needs some of our stars in track to race more, because I feel like that's how the sport's going to grow. I think some of our stars don't race enough. And I think what Michael Johnson's doing is great, because I think once you sign, you have to race a certain amount of times. And I think that's the way the sport will grow in the right way, because I think this sport has so much potential. I've always told my friends, I'm like, I get annoyed how race horsing is bigger than running. It's just race track should be so much bigger than that. People oh, track's boring, but they'll watch race horsing, NASCAR, and I'm like, come on. I don't know. Personally, I just think what he's doing is great for the sport, and I'm excited to be a pro now, because I feel like this sport is about to grow so much more in the next couple of years. At least that's what I hope.
I don't think you need to worry. I think you're going to get invited, whether you're one of the 48 solids or the 48 invites. I think if I were you, I wouldn't worry. I'd just go race. I think that's a no-brainer from a marketing point of view of his track league. But two-part question for you. What do you tell athletes what would you tell an athlete that's similar to you, that believes they can be somebody, but just is met with walls, isn't really seeing the opportunity? And then second of all, would you ever think about coaching high school?
Yeah, that's great questions. I would say the most important thing is you have to find a group that supports you, this sport is basically impossible to do by yourself. I've seen a lot of, in my opinion, equally talented or even more talented runners try to do everything on their own and they failed. And it's important to be part of a group where, I think Empire, I was just very lucky because I was in the right place at the right time. And, I believe in this program. I think this program can get me very far in the sport. So for a similar type runner, you need to find a coach and hopefully some teammates that are like-minded and that just want to be great. And hopefully it's an environment that's exciting, because I think, to be successful in any endeavor, you have to enjoy it. I think it's very hard to be successful in something that you don't like. If you're not enjoying it, I don't know if you can necessarily be good at it, and that's like goes with anything in life, you might be okay, but I think if you need to be great at something, you need to enjoy it. And, I know the reason I'm partly good at this is because I enjoy it. I love competing. I get nervous, but I do find it fun. And I also feel like, I don't know. I think it's good to do something like this. It's a good endeavor, and I hopefully do inspire people. But I do think I will coach at some capacity in my life, and I could definitely see myself being a high school coach down the road. I mean, it is interesting because I was like a lower mileage guy in high school. So it's like, I don't know, how do you mean coach high schools? You make them do a little higher mileage, lower
or
mileage?
a pro coach. Basically, do you see yourself coaching someday? I feel like this is a perfect fit for you, but I barely know you. So I guess I'm just wondering,
made that
do
up.
you see, yeah, I'm making this up. In my head, I'm like, Eric Holt would be the best coach because you had to fight your way through. You're super positive. You rely on the people around you. You don't take no for an answer. And basically, I'm just saying you should think about coaching when the running thing's done.
It's funny. I've talked to. I remember I talked to my friend Jacob, and I was like, dude, if him and I were like a college coach, I would love that because he's the most organized person I know. I'm a little disorganized, so I always need to be around someone a little more organized than me. But I could see it for sure. It's something I do want to potentially, maybe even soon get into online coaching and see if I can do well in that. And then from there, down the line, definitely be a coach. But it's something that I am, considering, and I think it would be a lot of fun. So for sure.
We don't want to push you into retirement too early.
Yeah. Just so we're clear. We're
just getting going. Well, it seems like you have a great handle on so many aspects of the sport. Obviously, you have a really great handle for coaching and the athletic side, the professional side, figuring out the marketing and storytelling. We on this podcast are always trying to figure out how to solve all the sports problems. And that's just like a huge, broad. We talk about sponsorship to doping, all of these different things. And it's called Nobody Asked Us. So I guess for a wrap up question for you, and this is as broad as you want it to be, what is nobody asking in the track and field space that we should be thinking about, we should be trying to fix? What's something that you think about that you could make the sport a little bit better?
I think one thing I've noticed is, and I've kind of realized it throughout, me running is I've always felt like track is a lot about personality and stories. And, I think if we can, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I feel like if you look at certain sports that are more individually based and running, I think if we can just add maybe a bit more personality. But I also think it's very important that once we have stars and icons in our sport, we just need to make sure they maybe compete a little more throughout the year, because I think what happens sometimes is you'll get stars and I don't know. I think it's just we should see him maybe compete. Sometimes people take off the indoors and stuff, and I understand for injuries and stuff that makes perfect sense. But sometimes in our sport, it's the only time we really get to see our stars at work is during the World Championships, the Olympics, where I feel a lot of sports that make the most money and have the biggest pull with the public. I think the biggest reason is because you get to see these people compete every weekend. I'm not saying that's what needs to be done in track, but like I do like talk about my friends. I'm like, I think this sport would be better if, like what the Michael Johnson League is, we get to see our stars compete and maybe like compete in different events as well. I don't know. I mean, it's tough, but I definitely think if we could just like, maybe have more meets and then we get to see more of the personal side of our athletes, and because it's easier to care about someone if you get to know more. I don't know. I mean, that's what I think.
Love it.
Yeah, I agree. Race more, people. Just what Eric said, race off events, get out there, let us get to know you, make us care. Like you said, Eric, sometimes people are injured, they're coming off stuff we don't know about, but I would love to see people get out there more and race more and not be afraid to lose, go out there.
Exactly.
And it's okay to lose. It's no big deal. Actually, it makes you better the next time around.
Yeah. Like you watch your favorite sports teams and they lose all the time.
Right.
I mean, and also it's like we work out like all the time. So you just do your race and then you do like maybe a little workout afterwards. It's just like, I mean, I don't think it makes you a worse runner. And I think, there'll just be maybe more money, more attention in our sport if we just compete more. I think people will like that. I think the problem is it's like, you're right. The stars just want to win all the time and they want to run really fast times. But I think running's more about, us being seen by the public more.
I think your story is really the perfect example of a guy who had a lot of touch points with the audience, and some of them were high and some of them were low, but it's the storytelling aspect and the personalization of it. And congratulations to you on the Puma deal, on an amazing trials. And we are going to be watching you race moving forward, rooting for you. And we appreciate you coming on and giving us some time today. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you so much, Des and Kara. It's such an honor to be on here.